Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome in. We're still getting started here. We're still on the loading screen, but we will start today's talk pretty shortly. Just to preface this, as all of the messages and message pinned at the top of the chat, at least on the purple app, and just as the description talks about on the red app. Tonight we're talking about perfect timing. My toaster, everyone up. We're talking about grief loss. Okay, so if that's not something you're up for, that is entirely okay. You can absolutely catch me on another stream. And usually how these Tuesdays work is that we talk about something that real life oriented that we care to talk about. I'm kicking them off by picking the topics ahead of time. Eventually, hopefully, I'll start, getting some feedback from y'all about things you want to talk about, and I can prepare you. But that's what we're doing tonight. And then at the end of these talks, I always typically try to go the other way and make sure something like frivolous or kind of lighthearted is on the docket to talk about. So that's the goal. But we're gonna get started here. The timer's ran out, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing done. Thankfully, this isn't the official start of the show, so the toaster oven didn't really cause any real problems. It was just kind of funny to me. I'll be right back. But let's get started. Go ahead, Uzi. Go off and cook that steak. What's going on, everyone? Hi, my name's Phil Special Meter, 1/3 of hard mode selected, and we are having another Talk Through It Tuesday. Today, we're going to be talking all about grief loss, something that I'm no stranger to, and something that really affects us all. Now I wanted this to be casual, which is why I made some food. Here's some soft pretzels. Yeah. We approve? I approve. That's been my go-to snack lately. I want a little comfort food. Per usual, I would like to start this whole thing off by reminding everyone there is a trigger warning attached to the top of chat. It is pinned. I don't necessarily fully plan or dictate where these conversations go. Tuesdays are an opportunity here to just sort of talk about real shit. And no, real shit doesn't automatically equal negative stuff or hard stuff or heavy stuff. It's just real stuff. And I wanted to make sure there was sort of a lane for me to not have to, like, you know, overly censor myself and try to steer things towards like, hey, it's just fun, positive, happy vibes here. I wanted to have a specific stream every week, or as many weeks as I can possibly swing it, where we are able to just talk about some stuff that might be on our minds, and, you know, the usual rules of, like, you know, avoiding politics and, you know, avoiding current events and real world stuff, and avoiding, like, kind of going into, you know, actually, I don't have any real rules against going too deep into your personal life, only that you don't dox yourself, right? So, yeah, we're just gonna talk about this because one of the things I wanna get to tonight is the fact that we don't talk about this and how weird that is. But before we get into it, what's up, y'all? My name's Phil Special Meter. Once again, if you are new to the channel, hey, how you doing? And if you are returning, hey, how you doing? Let me adjust this music in my ears, and let me also pick a different vibe, just like more of an instrumental vibe. If I remember where to look, I did not plan for this. Hold on, y'all. Though I do vibe, I do fuck with the song heavy. We'll use it to start off a stream another time. Isn't it here? Hold on, y'all. Now let's go with something even more reliable than that. Why don't we go to... Ooh, okay. Let's try something a little different. I'm curious if it'll give me different stuff after a while. Let me see. Oh, that's perfect though, kind of, given the subject matter. Let me see. Where's the playlist controls? I mean, it's not set to repeat or anything, so it should just keep going, finding similar stuff afterwards. This up there, that's kind of intense. All right, there we go. Sick. Anyways, like I said, I'm eating dinner. I'm not really dinner. I had dinner, but this is like after dinner snack. Okay. Every time I eat on stream now, especially with the sensitivity of my mic kind of being different than it was, and I'm still... Actually, I lie. I'm not going to fuck with it too much because it took me a long time to get the settings somewhere I kind of enjoy. Now watching Thunderbolts. Enjoy Thunderbolts. I hope you like it. I don't know if you've already seen it, so I'll be back. Okay, word. I don't know if you've already seen it, but I hope you have a good time. I have not seen it yet, so no spoilers. But I do want to get on that. All right. Now, this is not that formal, but I did take some notes. I did want to just sort of, yeah, there it is. Okay, cool. Notes, and then, oh yeah, I forgot I had a work text thing come through, and now it's like, Cool. Good information to have from work. Oh man, I love the score. Okay. Wow, this composer's kind of cute. Not gonna lie. Johann. Oh man, I'm not even gonna try. So no, I'm gonna try. Soda Twist. Yeah, sexy looking guy. Anyways, I'm also gonna want to pull up a social media account. I normally don't. I could just do. Normally, I would be able to just do this on my phone, but I actually don't have access. I mean, I can change it, but like I currently have my phone set to not let me into my social media accounts on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays as well. Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. So, but I would benefit from just being able to get in for a moment like this, even as I get set up here. If you're in the chatty mood, you know, let me know how you're doing. Hope your week's going okay. Man, it's been a hell of a week for me. It feels like it's been a very long week. Meanwhile, it's actually Tuesday. But actually, I think I'm on. Yeah, I feel like I'm coming on the upside of things. But it's a consistent fight to make that happen. It's not a passive thing. Life isn't just turning around for me. It's something I'm doing the turning. So, as it typically is. Let me see what's going on with this. I just need to where the hell? That's interesting. I guess it only shows me. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, where are my... Oh, don't tell me I can't see my I can't see my saves on here, can I? Because desktop is weird. Come on. It's at the bottom. Ah, there it is. Bruh. Don't get distracted. You're here for a very specific thing. And that's all we want right now. Fuck the notifications and everything else. Sick. This is all we could ask for. All right, sick. I love this. Why don't we? Is there a way to full screen this? Yes, and then. Okay, this will do. This is what I'll have to do. All right. Anyways, cool. I'll definitely have to pet emote. Uzi has all the best emotes. Look at that watch streak though. 10 stream streak. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. All right. Anyways. Where did I just put you? I haven't seen a movie yet. I probably shouldn't. All right. Anyways, cool. So, for the VOD later, my apologies. In any case, some things we don't talk about. Indeed. Well said, the fray. Anyways, so for episode 2 here, with grief, I don't know. I was really, I was really drawn to talk about this a little bit, just because I saw this post on my Instagram account, I think just yesterday or so, and I was already looking for like a topic, and there's one I'm working on, but it's not ready to go yet. So I was like, I need something like I can easily just get into, and I was like, oh, this is great. Um, I don't know. I think I'll just start by sharing you what I found, which was pretty cool. Again, how do I start this? I guess as something that is so a part of life as grief loss is, and how inevitable it is. It strikes me as odd that we don't really encourage just normalized conversations about it. Like even doing the stream, I'm very conscious of the fact that like, oh, this is this is a live stream, and my audience and the general audiences that are on the platforms I'm on are typically just looking for a way to unwind at, at work, after work, at school, after school, whatever. Just trying to find a way to just like vibe and have a good time. And so this type of talk will probably drive people away, which is fine. But for somebody who might be yearning for an opportunity to reflect on or discuss at least try and process this topic, it's fine. Even if it's just all two of you, you know what I mean? That's what these streams are for. But it's very odd that we don't really talk about grief. I don't know. There's something about human beings where we know we are not going to live forever, right? And we know that everyone around us someday will be gone as well. And we know that it's going to happen whenever it happens. And there's no, we know all this, and yet for some reason the subject of things like dying or grief loss or anything in that wheelhouse is considered taboo, impolite to bring up in casual situations or regular conversations. It's not something you're supposed to delve into if somebody asks how you're doing. It's not something you're supposed to delve into at work. It's not something you're supposed to delve into while you're hanging out with your friends. It's not something in a social situation. It's not something you're supposed to delve into when somebody's trying to keep their good vibes or whatever. It's like, well, then when the fuck do we talk about it? When the fuck do we talk about it? That's what I think. People need to talk about it, not only because, to be healthy psychologically, emotionally, and all that, but just like sometimes practically, just to look ahead and be like, okay, like how do I want to do things, knowing that this will eventually touch my life. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's such a strange society we have. But I do have an image. I actually have quite a few images. Let me make sure I have my OBS set up properly to do this. There we go. Sick. It went straight to it. We don't have any audio. We do not have any audio for this, which is great. So somebody collected a series of quotes from various celebrities about about grief loss, and I have to change this playlist because I thought it was gonna lean one way and it's leaning the other way. But yeah, collected a bunch of quotes from various celebrities about grief, and they coming from a very personal place of their lived experience with it, and I found it so fascinating and so compelling and so refreshing, just to again make it just this regular thing. We're just gonna listen to brief while I wait, and then I think we'll also, I swear to God, I had this thing set up, and now I don't know where it is in my playlist. So I'm just gonna leave it, and I'll just turn it down just a little bit lower than I usually do. Where is that? There we go. Sick. And I can do the same thing in my ear. Okay, so anyways, Liam Neeson lost his wife, and I thought this was a really, really powerful and relevant statement. It was like, That's the weird thing about grief. You can't prepare for it. You think you're gonna cry and get it over with. You make those plans, but they never work. I'm out walking. I'm feeling quite content, and it's like suddenly, boom. It's like you've just done that in your chest, and it's really fucking true. Like, it's something that I remember when I lost my father, for example, years ago, 2013, excuse me, in 2013. And I remember during that time, I thought like, okay, like I'm handling this, right? Like, I would be, I would drive to school. I was going to community college at the time. I would drive to school, and I would just be like, I would just sit in my car in the parking lot before I had to go in, bawl my eyes out, right? Just release all this sadness. And then got it out, felt like, okay, we did that. Let's go. And, I would go in and I would, be in my acting classes, and no one was the wiser. Nobody could really tell the difference. Because, especially since a lot of those people were just getting to know me. They didn't have a baseline to sort of gauge like, Phil seems a little off today or anything like that. So, and I remember carrying on that way as needed for about, the course of a year, which is why I initially said 2014, because in 2014, as much as I kept working, going to school, doing the emotional work, whatever, I still came unglued by the fall of 2014, and by the summer of 2014, excuse me. And then it was just sort of like this process of having to put myself back together, because as somebody explained to me, a therapist explained to me, you've been in survival mode this whole time. So like, my father had passed in like, in May of 2013, and like all the way into like, June, July, I was still, I had been in this sort of, I gotta keep doing something to not make this, to not let this thing own me, to not let this grief and this sadness own me, and sort of, disrupt everything I've set out to do. And part of it was healthy, and I do think it was absolutely the move. I don't regret that year at all, in the sense of my choices, before and after. And it was a particularly rough year because I had also lost a good friend of mine as well. And it was all in the same like summer. It was wildly close together, with my father and my friend. And so it was one of these things where like, you do what you know how to do. You do the best you can. I had a former student. I was a youth mentor. I had a former student at the time tell me like, he passed on some great wisdom from his dad. And he was just like, when you don't know what to do, you do what you know how to do. And you just, you kind of hope, you pray, and you just kind of get, hope you get better. And I think that was such a great thing, a great way to, again, make, like, kind of like we talked about last week, making something small so it's more manageable. Because last week we talked about burnout and anxiety and depression, but like, I think that was such a great tool that I still use. Sometimes I really am overwhelmed, whether it's by grief or another thing, right? Stress, anxiety, whatever it is. And I will just go, okay, well then just like do the thing you know how to do. Because right now you're just like darting back and forth between all the things that you're concerned about or under the pressure of or the weight of, and it's just like, all right, you just gotta do a thing. And the thing doesn't have to be. The thing can be incredibly active. You can go play. There are basketball courts in my apartment complex. I can go play basketball. Could go to the gym. Could go for a walk. And could call up a friend and talk to them. Call up a family member and talk to them. I could also just like, I could also very much easily, play some video games. This past week, I definitely just played some games. Whenever it got too much. And as a coping tool, like, no, do I love the fact that I like need to just shut down and play video games to just sort of decompress when things get hard? It's not how I want to, respond every time. But when the stakes are high, you do the thing that can help you out. And you make things simple and make things small. And I think it really helps. But anyways, back to Liam Neeson's quote. Yeah, I just really do think that despite the best efforts, just like I did, in those years I was describing, like despite the best efforts to feel like you're in control of how you grieve, and even you're being conscious, you're being kind to yourself. You're like, hey, this is gonna hurt, so just go ahead, hurt, and then like you'll eventually pick up and move on. And unfortunately, it's not that linear, as some of these other quotes will also delve into. Wrong thing. Let me see. Where's the? Here it is. All right, moving on. All right. Then we have this quote, and I'm actually not familiar with her and her work. I actually do need to do some research. Um, and I don't think I have the lexicon to like really pronounce her name properly. So I'm gonna actually just do some research. Either way, this one really hit. How is it that the world keeps going, breathing in and out unchanged, while in my soul there's permanent scattering? Um, Very, very, very valid. I really felt that was such an accurate assessment. You feel like the whole world's just up, and then it certainly doesn't. Andrew Garfield. I am very familiar with this quote, and it really has helped me a lot. This is such a great take on just shifting a perspective, reframing. How you view life and the way you interact. We never get enough time with each other, no matter if someone lives till 60, 15, or 99. I hope this grief stays with me because it's all unexpressed love I never got to tell her. And I told her every day. So powerful. This is Andrew Garfield on the loss of his mother. To be fair, Liam Neeson was talking about the loss of his wife. And this beautiful woman was talking about the loss of her father. But yeah, Andrew Garfield talks about the loss of his mom very openly, in interviews, and it's been very, I think, helpful and for me healing. And it's just really, it's so true. Like, no matter what it is, no matter how life plays out, it never feels like enough time. It's sort of like how I feel when a really good friend or a close loved one comes to visit me, or I go visit them. It feels like, oh my God, we needed this. It was so good to see you again. But it always feels like it's just too brief. It's not enough time. I have a very seeking suspicion that the entirety of life is going to probably feel like that at some point. And so I love what I love about this. He covers so much ground in one quote. We never get enough time with each other, which is so true. No matter if someone lives till 60, 15, or 99. Again, that sense of like, it doesn't matter if somebody is quote unquote gone too soon, or has an untimely death, or leaves us before we were ready. We're never going to be ready. It never feels right. I was talking to my older brother about, like, again, I don't even know this gentleman, but one of my streams last week, I was talking to my older brother about the fact that, like, hey, did you know that John Irwin had passed? And it was just such a blow to me. And even though, hold on a second. I just want to make sure I got that, make sure I got that correct. Sometimes my brain doesn't do everything the way I think it should. Yeah, okay. It is John Irwin. Okay, good. I'm looking at his name. I've been looking at this man's name in credits since I was a little guy. Shout out to the big bro Star Cardinal because he put me on. My older brother's favorite, like, fictional character, hero, whatever, from early childhood was He-Man, and John Irwin was the voice of He-Man in the original 1980s, cartoon. And so it just escaped me somehow that he had passed away end of last year in December, and I was just like, wait, what? And like, it just hit. It was just like, man. And I read about it. I read up on it a little bit, and he died of natural causes. He was, I think, 82, like 82 or 84, somewhere in there. And I felt like that's a good ass run. You know what I mean? That's pretty dope. That's pretty awesome. But it didn't change the fact that I felt this sense of a loss. A connection to my childhood, a connection to a warm, friendly voice, that carried me through, so many mundane days of school and growing up, but also very difficult times of just trying to get a break from life's harshness. He-Man was there as a friend, and he talked directly to the audience sometimes because that was still the era of like, after school special style like PSA messages at the end of cartoons, those 80s cartoons that always had like the G.I. Joe is I think is the most famous one, but like I always think of He-Man first because He-Man and She-Ra were, a far bigger deal to me than G.I. Joe or Transformers or a lot of the other things out there. I was really into He-Man, She-Ra, Thundercats, Turtles, various Voltron. But yeah, that just really stuck with me. That when I heard that John Irwin had passed, it was just like, man. And again, long life. Most would say a full life. And doesn't change the fact that it still matters. Like I would hear people talk about losing their, one of their grandparents, and like you can tell by the way they're talking about them that they're just so close to their grandma, their granddad, and it's again, it's just like it really takes a toll. And I think because throughout my life, I've had various varying degrees of closeness to my grandparents, and even my biological grandparents on my dad's side, I just never really got to know on a real level. Like I've met them, but like didn't really get to know them. Um, so it's so sometimes it's a little bit foreign to me. Um, but like people talk about it and I can just tell like, oh man, this is somebody you were really close to and really means a lot to you. And even though you understand they're of an age where typically people start to pass on, it still didn't fucking matter, and nor should it. So I love that Andrew covers those points, and then also this really beautiful, again, reframing of an optimistic and genuine. I hope this grief stays with me because it's all the unexpressed love I never got to tell her, right? I think we've all been, I think all of it, I shouldn't say we all, I think many of us have been fans of the quote from WandaVision um, that comes from Vision, what is grief if not, oh God, it's been so long since I heard it, but essentially what is grief if not, you know, sort of this evidence or this proof that like we truly love someone, and and how it stays with us, that love is still here but we don't have anywhere to put it. And it's really such a great reminder of how that works. But also just clenching it, like it's all the unexpressed love I never got to tell her, and I told her every day. Like, I think one of the things that I struggle with, which is why I think this quote is so beautiful, Andrew really manages to take the onus and the burden off of the person experiencing the grief, take away any sense of blame. Like I didn't do enough, I didn't say it enough, I didn't show it enough, right? Those are things that I think about whenever somebody passes. Like, oh man, did I do enough to like spend time with them? Like, like I had opportunities, but I was so busy doing whatever and work and the rat race in life and my own personal goals and growth and all that. And it's just like, man, it could have taken like 2 more minutes to like pick up the damn phone, you know. And I think no matter who it is, like when somebody passes, that's something that I just end up feeling and thinking. And you just think, man, I want to do better. I want to absolutely. Make sure I'm incorporating time with the people who matter on a regular basis. But even if you do, even if you live with somebody, you see them every day, you tell them you love them every day, it still doesn't feel like It feels like you never got to tell them everything you wanted to say, even if you literally did. And so it's such a strange thing. But I love this mature take on just like, again, just appreciating all the aspects of it and also just taking the burden off of yourself to like, hey, you know, no matter how much you did, no matter how thoroughly you loved and fiercely you loved, it's just not enough time. And it's just gonna feel a lot like there's so much you were looking forward to being able to tell them that you can't tell them now, and that's a real thing. Shout out to Andrew Garfield. Here we have Amy Sedaris. Again, kind of echoing the quote from earlier, where it's like, how is it the world keeps going, breathing in and out, unchanged, while in my soul there's permanent scattering. A similar thought comes here from Amy Sedaris, which says, you want the whole world to stop for a second when you lose somebody important, but the world just goes on and in the fast lane. And you just want to scream, my mother just died, or my father just died. Can we take a second? But no. On the loss of her parents and her sister. So that's such a real thing. And I think, again, I already haven't covered this a little bit, but it's just such a weird, disorienting feeling to be going through grief loss while most people around you appear to be having a pretty normal, everyday experience. There are times that, especially going back to, again, while I was going to school after the grief loss I was going through, it was just such a weird time where like, I just felt so emotionally disconnected from everything around me. I'm going to school and people were having these these intense debates about whatever, it's an acting program. So unfortunately there was drama off the stage as well. People are just, getting into like all this stuff. And, I remember while I was going to school, like a young woman had taken interest in me. I was like, at this point, I think I was like somewhere in my, I was probably late 20s, early 30s, in there. And like, this young college girl, probably around 22 or so, like had a very obvious like crush on me, right? And I liked her well enough, and she was a good looking girl and she was friendly and like I thought she was cool or whatever, but like I was just on this whole like just focus on the work. I'm just here to learn. I'm here to learn the craft, get better at the craft, work on it. And make contacts with some people who I think are like, yeah, potentially also dope actors and costumers and whatever. Just like network and do that thing. Network always sounds so dirty and like so transactional, and that's not entirely what I was going for. But I kept notes on like people I really enjoyed working with or would like to work with and all that. So I was in that mode. A lot of people in the theater program, from what I could tell, were there for different reasons. Some people really are trying to like make this their career. Some people, this is just an elective, and this is just like a fun thing to do. Some people, it's just a blow off class because they needed to take something, what I mean? So you get all types. And so, but yeah, I was just so focused on just the drive to get better. I've been acting since I was a little kid, but the drive to get better, to see if I had anything in the tank to become, a professional actor. And so, while I was doing that, this girl had a crush on me. And, meanwhile, I'm contemplating the loss of my father and the loss of a friend of mine. And I'm just like, my mind is just so blown out. Like cognitively, everything's still working. And like, I can do high functioning things and have complex thoughts and all this other stuff. But like emotionally, I'm just treading water here. And so I was there's a lot of times I was just kind of numb. And this girl trying to flirt with me, hit on me. I had made the mistake at one point of asking for a number, as I had been doing with various other students, again, who I thought like, hey, it'd be cool to work with you sometime. And then it got out of control from there. I think she thought I was gonna ask her out, and I was like, oh fuck, what did I do? And so like, eventually just had to like deal with it and be like, hey, like this is, I just don't have the the emotional bandwidth or whatever. I'm just, you're dealing with a lot. And so, that went on, I think, through the duration of that semester. And then towards the end, I think, she grew frustrated with me because I couldn't give her what she wanted, which is fine. But like, mostly it was just sort of like, just so far removed from anything like that. Like, so I don't know. I picked up on her interest in me. Like, for all I know, other classmates or something could have been interested in me, or some people have come up later and said they admired me. They were looking up to me because of the work I was doing. And I was just like, I took no stock of that. I took no account of that. I had no idea. It's very touching and flattering, and I appreciate it. But like, at that time, it was just, it just didn't, like, it just felt like, earth to fill sometimes. So I thought this was just such a real thing. But you feel this, you really feel like, hey, I keep moving, I keep doing things. Anderson Cooper talks about sort of the loss of his parents and his brother. Loss and grief are among the most universal human experiences, and yet we don't talk about them nearly enough. All of us will lose people we love, and yet when you're the one grieving, it often feels like you're all alone. I have nothing to add to that. That's absolutely what it is, and that's absolutely the thing we're talking about. So shout out to Anderson Cooper. But yeah, people have this weird avoidance pattern with life and death, and with death, I should say. And then it's like people don't want to be reminded that it's going to happen. And I'm like, fair, but also it is, though. And it happens quite frequently, quite regularly. And none of us get a heads up notification on our phone that says, hey, so and so is gonna, pass in a couple of days, or you've only got so much, like, nobody knows that. So with it being a regular occurrence that happens whatever it happens to happen, then it just seems to me like having space in normal conversation for somebody to be able to share that that's what's going on. Like, it shouldn't have to be this trepidatious thing where it's like, I don't want to bother anyone or burden anyone, and I don't want to bring the mood down. Like, it shouldn't have to be all that. This does bring up a point that I wanted to get to. I remember a couple years back, there was this viral clip of a Twitch streamer who had a woman in his chat who had just offhandedly, casually shared that, like, after he'd asked how she was doing, because she had just entered chat, he asked how this woman is doing. She casually shares what her day's been like, and she also mentions that, like, oh yeah, I just lost my mom, and whatever. But and she did it very, like, matter of fact in the wording. I mean, there was no vocal intonation because we can't, that's not how Twitch works. So just from her commentary in the chat, it just seemed like, yeah, she was just talking about, like, just having a real moment about, like, yeah, this is what it is right now. And this dude went off. This dude completely fucking lost his shit, started yelling at her about, like, you can't come in here and just drop the most bummer news possible, messing up the vibe of this. It's like, whoa, bruh. Now, I understand that everyone on these types of platforms has to have boundaries. There are certain places you don't want your chat to go. You don't want your stream to go. That's not what you're doing with your stream. And you let people know these things ahead of time, up front, in your rules section, and you reinforce it, in chat if it starts to, if somebody starts to, try to spin it, steer things away from where you want it to stay at, right? And it's like, there were a million ways to handle it. I just in a million years couldn't fathom screaming angrily at a grieving person. Like, what a toxic way to handle that. Even if you believe that streamer had a point and was fair to say, like, hey, I can't have that type of discussion in my chat. That's just not, I'm not equipped to do that because, like, hey, I'm not a trained therapist, and, like, I'm not a mental health professional. Like, I don't want to tackle stuff like that. That's just not something I'm prepared to do. That's fair. That's reasonable. That's understandable. And that's something I can support. But yelling at somebody who's already going through a difficult time, that's crazy. That's wild to me. I would never in a million years, I hope, I can't predict the future and all the versions of Phil you're gonna get within the remainder of my lifetime. But I cannot contemplate or conceive of a time when I would do that. That was so trash in my opinion. Um, but yeah, this one I wanted to get to. Yes. Um, Keanu Reeves. Oh my God, yeah. Keanu Reeves had lost his partner and his baby. Keanu Reeves has just like really in his personal life, from what I can tell, just like really endured a lot of loss and a lot of very heart wrenching times. And I think that I don't want to put words on what his experience was, but I appreciate that he's somehow used all that to be even more empathetic, more gentle, more patient with people, more kind, more understanding, and I really admire that about everything I've heard about Keanu Reeves and the way he treats people and everything I've seen of him in interviews. Grief changes shape, but it never ends. People have a misconception that you can deal with it and say it's gone and I'm better. They're wrong. This shit is a banger. Okay, this is something that I feel like isn't talked about enough. There are, I'll pull them up as well. There are what are known as, stages of grief, correct? Right? Like there are these things that, we perceive as like, hey, these are the things you're gonna end up going through. Um, and I just wanted to talk about them real quick. I know what the stages of grief are, but I just wanted to talk about them a little bit in more depth. Oh, not voice meter. Completely goofing up in my head. Everything sounds all like robot mode now. Hold on. um, Sick. It's booting back up. Fantastic. All right, cool. All right. So the stages of the grief include um, whew, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Sometimes depression is also called sadness, right? Um, and so with that, the thing about it is, even though we are aware of various stages of grief and like that could be a process, I think there are still many people out there who expect it to be like a very cut and dry, like quantifiable experience. Like this is gonna hit hard for this long, but by it's been it's been 6 months, it's been a year, it's been 10 years. I should be over it by now, or you should be over it by now. That's even worse, putting it on somebody else that they should be on your timetable of like how long it takes to grieve about something. It's wild. And I think one of the things that I really appreciate about this quote is that, yeah, it is something that just kind of, in my experience, and I'm not going to speak for anyone else, is something that is just that lives within me, and just like he says, changes shape over time as I grow and change and develop and age and whatever. Like, so does the grief. Um, there's this quote that this colloquialism that people lean on: time heals all wounds, right? I say horseshit. I say absolute horseshit. Time doesn't heal a fucking thing. It's it's not that you can't heal or recover. Um, it's that it's not time that's doing the work for you. It's you. It's you. It's a very active process. It's not a passive thing where you just wake up one day and you're like, oh, this ain't so bad. Like, no, it's a very active thing that you find ways to work through. And it may not always be therapy or self-help or, something like medical or whatever. It might just be like, okay, you deal with your grief by like, again, getting good exercise in, surrounding yourself with wonderful people, maybe just being open and emotionally honest with one person that you feel safe enough to do that with. Whatever it is, over time you can, heal. But here's the thing about healing. Healing is a journey, and it doesn't have to be this thing that like is like a completion percentage on a fucking video game, right? Like it's not like, okay, you have achieved you have unlocked the platinum trophy for grieving and healing and recovering. Like you are now 100% done with that. Like I don't I have yet to experience anything like that in any form of like, healing I can think of, even the physical stuff. My buddy Cosmonaut really put it well once, talking about, and we'll talk about more in a little bit, because this opens up another subject. But like, we're talking about the grief of like losing a relationship. So a person's still alive, right? But you deeply, profoundly love them, and for whatever reason it doesn't work out. They walk away. You have to walk away. It just dissolves, whatever it is. And it's like, when you still love that person that fiercely, that strongly, I don't know, Cosmonaut, the homie Kevin, just like really compared it to learning to walk with a limp. And it's so true. It's like, it doesn't completely break you down and necessarily, and it doesn't have to, at least, in the cases we're talking about with our personal experiences. It's like, yeah, we're going to go on and we're going to live, and, we're still going to laugh at things. We're still going to have an experience here on Earth, but there's this little part of you that's still just like not quite the same. You kind of have to, it hurts a little bit, and it's not as functional as it once was. And you sort of emotionally and spiritually, you just have to learn to walk with a limp. And, that doesn't have to be tragic. People have people walk with like various limps and kind of impediments all the time, and still have a wonderful, beautiful, full life. But it's still there with you. And technically, if you're walking with a limp, technically it may have even healed, right? You healed. You gave it time. You rested your leg. You did the physical therapy. You took the medications. You got the surgery. The whole 9 yards. You did all the stuff. And it's better than it was when the injury initially happened. But it doesn't function the way it did before the injury, right? And emotional pain is the same thing. It's like, grief loss is the same thing. It's like, the people I grieve, living and past, right? They still are. I want to stop being precious about saying death. I don't know. I think like, I get mindful of like terms and services of various like platforms, and I don't know how precious they are about like just saying death, but it is what it is. I feel like with the grief loss I experienced, I have definitely healed, and continue to heal. It's an ongoing process of healing. I have to re-heal. Sometimes you think you're good, and then you reopen the wound somewhere, and you're like, God damn it, like I wasn't trying to do this today, and so I feel like even having come out the other side of like healing, like it's still there. Whether we're talking about somebody who's died, or somebody who just is no longer in your life for whatever reason, or not in your life the way you want them to be in your life, whatever it may be. It's like, there's real grief there. There's a whole vision of your life and your future, that doesn't get to exist. It's like an artist with a beautiful vision of a beautiful painting, a beautiful scene that they need to express, but you're just that artist is no longer allowed to paint or use their tools to make art. It's like you have this thing inside of you that lives rent free in your brain, and you just need to see it play out. You need to experience it, but you can't. You can't. That option is completely off the table, and that's a hard thing. And that some days that just hits. It's just gonna be what it is. So shout out to Keanu Reeves, this beautiful quote. This was Aubrey Plaza. I didn't actually know that I didn't know she was ever married, and I did not know that she had lost her husband. Big fan of her work as well. My grief is a giant ocean of awfulness that's right there, and I can see it. And sometimes I just want to dive into it and just be in it. And then sometimes I try to get away from it, but it's always there. I feel like, I don't know, one of the various versions of Batman touched on this. I don't know if it was Batman Beyond or the animated series or somewhere, but like I think it may have been the animated series. It may be I think it may have been Robin's Reckoning, part one, which I was trying. I don't know. Uzi's going off, and I'm just like, I don't. I'm just like, I think I catch the references, but in any case, I remember Batman the Animated Series, and I just remember this episode called Robin's Reckoning Part 1. It was the episode they chose to delve into the origin story of Dick Grayson Robin. Robin had been on the show off and on in various episodes as a 18-year-old college student slash crime fighter. So sometimes he was working with Batman, sometimes he was off at college. But like they went to his origin. They showed him as a little kid, and what happened in the loss of his parents. And there's this beautiful scene where he's in Wayne Manor, alone, and he's clearly just sad. And that's a big empty ass mansion, right? And so Alfred sees this. Alfred goes down to the cave. Batman is doing what he knows how to do to I got you, Uzi. Batman's doing what he knows how to do with grief and rage and all the stuff that comes with it. And he's like out there trying to find Tony Zuko, the man who killed Dick Grayson's parents. He's like, get that bastard. Alfred's like, there's a kid here who could like really use your attention, like a young orphan. You remember him? And Batman's like, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing this for him. I'm gonna get the guy. And Alfred's like, you think maybe he could use a friend? Isn't that what you needed? And Batman, you could see it hit Batman. You're like, oh, fuck, shit. It's like the Mekhi Phifer smoking meme. It's just like, how did I miss that? Right? Like, he's taking it to this place of like, I have an opportunity to do something. I can get the guy that got Dick's parents. I never got to get the guy who got my parents, but I can do this for him and give him that closure. He completely skipped over the part where like, the first thing you need is just some support, just a friend. And so he goes over and he talks to Dick Grayson, and brings him into the foyer, and he shows him the picture of his parents, a portrait of his parents, and he's just like like he talks about it, and Dick's like oh, you lost your parents too, like does it ever go away? And Batman, I think Bruce had the presence of mind to say no, not really, but it gets better over time. It gets easier to deal with over time in some ways. I don't think he even said easy, but he does say it gets better over time, and I think it really was implying that, you just learn to manage it. But it never really I love that he just says it never really goes away, that hurt inside, and I think that's a real honest thing for me. And again, I can't speak to everyone's experience. I can't talk about what everybody else goes through. I feel like some people, maybe they do feel like it's like presto change. I'm all good now. It's nothing but smiles whenever I think about the person I lost, because it was just beautiful to have had them. I'm good. I'm not that guy. I do reflect on with joy all the beautiful moments I have with with the people in my life, even the animals in my life. Right? I'm wearing a t-shirt of a husky. Right? I could do better about this mic placement, maybe. But yeah, I'm wearing a t-shirt of a husky. I owned a Siberian husky. He was my best friend for I don't know. He was my best friend for like almost 16 years, and I love that little guy. Shout out to Zorro. Shout out to Zorro wherever you may be. I love my little buddy. I love that guy. And yeah, it was, even though I know he was a dog, and I know that when you choose to own pets, such as dogs and cats and things of that nature, unless you're owning unless you choose to own like a tortoise that's designed to like maybe live for 100 years or so, most likely the pet that you adopt is going to, you're going to outlive them, most likely. We can't predict that, but it's if it's left up to natural causes, most likely you're going to outlive your pet. So you go in knowing that, right? But it's just such a beautiful experience, and watching them grow and develop, and loving them and them loving you, and just the companionship and the support and the relationship, and then eventually it comes to an end, and it's just like, Yeah, at first I think it was, I don't think I ever went through a period where I didn't want to talk about Zorro. I don't think that ever happened. Like, I don't really want to talk about that. I never had a day like that. I loved him so much, so fiercely. I needed to talk about him. But I also think that, like, over time, and same thing with my father as well, and some of the friends I've lost, is that, the way it goes forward, the more I talk about them now, the more I just like I'm just thinking of how cool it was to have them in my life, and how much I adored them, and how much fun it was, and how beautiful they were, and still are, and the way that they still affect me, and the things that I carry with me that are from them. I think about all that stuff, and it's really just yeah, a lot of times, when I'm talking to Big Bro about our dad, like I'm usually just kind of laughing about something that he said, or a very true observation he had about life, or you know, um, something fun we used to talk about together, whether it was Star Trek or comic books, or whatever it was, you know, martial arts, athleticism. It was philosophy. It was just I talked about like pretty much everything with dad, and so yeah, I do think you definitely get to a point. You can get to a point, and may even be immediately up front. I mean, I think even the day like my father passed, like I tell the story all the time, but I still laughed before that 24 hours was over. Like it wasn't just like oh like this all consuming sadness all day. It was like like we're human beings. We cope. We have real moments, and real moments can also be joy. It can also be laughter. It can also be comfort. Realness does not equal mean. Realness does not equal harsh and gritty. Realness is all of it, all of life. And so, life is very much, in my opinion, a mixed episode. And so, yeah, nowadays, yeah, when I talk about Zorro, or I talk about my dad, or I talk about some of my friends who passed away, it is absolutely with a sense of joy in my heart most of the time. But that joy didn't come in and remove the sadness. It's just kind of all mixed in together for me. Kind of like Inside Out, right? Like that moment where like sadness is finally allowed to do what sadness is supposed to do, which is, just let some just be empathetic and be there with somebody and let them, feel their sadness. It's like because that allowance is comes through when you allow yourself to sit with your sadness. Suddenly this counterintuitive thing happens where you start to get these endorphins. Like you kind of get to get it out, and then you feel comforted, and then you feel a bit better sometimes. And it's like really interesting how that can happen at times. And so and now in the movie the memory, the sad memory is now like mixed. It's like it's now happy and it's a sad memory, right? And I think that's so often what happens with for me with grief loss. It's like my reflections upon these people are now like they're happy and they're sad, and they're funny, and they're they're angering, they're all the things. They get to be lots of different things. Sometimes more one than the other on some days, but nevertheless they persist. So I think that's so incredible. Kieran Culkin talks about the loss of his sister. I only knew who I was because of who my siblings are. So to lose one was losing a big piece of myself. But losing one of my favorite people in the world, it doesn't get better and it doesn't get easier. It's just you get used to it. Again, that kind of goes back to what I was saying, like about Batman and Robin, right? Like in that their conversation, but like it's so true. Like I love the rawness of this. I love the reality of this. For his experience, it doesn't get better and it doesn't get easier. It's just you get used to it. I don't think I could have said this any better. Like that's how I feel with it. It's just like very much like there's a very pragmatic part of my brain that just goes, okay, it's like this now. Um, a good friend of mine, and I really had a shared exchange over like uh I think I'm saying it right, kintsugi, like the art of like really taking something that's been broken, the Japanese art of taking something that's been cracked or shattered, and like filling in the cracks with traces of like gold, like gold painting, or gold, whatever coloring of any kind, or even actual gold to fill in the cracks. And I think that such a beautiful thing. It's just sort of celebrating the imperfections, and I really think that it really was a great like sort of metaphor for like life in general. It's just like, some things break and are never going to be the same again, and but there can still be something beautiful and cherished within that. And reminds me of that quote from the end of Avengers: Age of Ultron. um, you know the movie closes in a very surprising way. Spoilers, I guess, if you haven't seen any of the MCU stuff, or Age of Ultron specifically. But at the end of the film, and one of the reasons I think that initially the film wasn't as well received as I feel like it deserved to be. I don't know, deserves is such an entitled thing, but like I think it was worthy of getting more love than it got. And initially, I think people are starting to turn on it and be like, "Oh, actually, Age of Ultron was pretty good." It's like, yeah, it always was. But you've changed. Something about you has changed. Your expectation is no longer coloring your experience. That's another talk. But nonetheless, I think one of the reasons that movie didn't like hit the way people wanted to was that it wasn't The Empire Strikes Back. It wasn't like the thing that completely destroys the Avengers. And B, I think it's because it was a lot more, even though there's plenty of action in it, it's really a philosophical quandary movie. And so there's a lot more thought piece going on in Age of Ultron than just punch, punch, smash, smash, good versus evil. Yeah, there's plenty of that too. But like, I think the movie really tries to examine, are human beings going to make it, right, as a species, and like, whether or not we're, worth saving. Ultron took Ultron's goaded for like on the internet and memes for like, bruh spent 10 minutes on the internet and decided, nah, these people gotta go. They just decided all of humanity. He was literally programmed to defend human life, to protect humanity. He got connected to the internet, became self-aware, and was like, oh hell no. The best thing I can do for these people is just to wipe them out. That is me saving them. Right? For a slow, painful death. And then they introduce Vision in that movie, and he's also an artificial intelligence, but he takes like a different stance. He stands with the human beings and is fascinated by them, finds them remarkable. And at the end of the movie, this very broken down shell that Ultron, this one Ultron body that Ultron still has that's completely fucked up. And he's just talking to Vision out in the woods. They're just having this conversation. Ultron basically is like, but they're going to destroy themselves. They're going to destroy themselves and the planet, and like, they're going to ruin, like they're not going to last. And it was so cool because Vision agreed. He's like, yeah, no, I agree. That they're definitely going to be their own undoing. But a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts. And I love that quote. I probably paraphrased it a little bit, but a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts. I love that. And again, just that embracing of impermanence, embracing of imperfection. You had two characters looking at the exact same thing and agreeing on the trajectory, agreeing on what is absolutely going to happen. It's just they had two slightly different perspectives on what that meant. They're looking at the same thing, but they process it differently. And so Ultron's just like, they're going to destroy themselves, and therefore, they're not worthy of continued existence. We should just eradicate them now. And you got Vision, who's just like, yeah, they're not going to last. They're probably going to be their own undoing, and that's okay. They're still a remarkable, species with so much to learn and so much to learn from. So I thought that was really interesting. But again, I thought this was such a real quote from Kieran Culkin. You just get used to it. I have just a couple more to go. Rob Delaney talks about the loss of his son, and he says, I don't hanker for much about Victorian times, but the idea of wearing all black following the death of someone you love makes a lot of sense to me. For a while anyway, I'd have liked you to know, even from across the street or through a telescope, that I am grieving. I think that is an interesting take. I think in modern times, a lot of times people kind of bemoan the idea of wearing all black clothes, like especially at a funeral or something, and having this sort of somber experience. Everybody's like, I hear a lot of, friends and family members who are like, no, I want you guys to celebrate my life, and I want everybody to wear bright colors, or I want everybody to wear something that they're comfortable in. I think that's really thoughtful and cool. But there's also nothing wrong with embracing, the more traditional aspects of like, this is a somber occasion. This is my opportunity, especially in our society as we continue to have it, where, as earlier mentioned, we don't get to talk about death and what that loss does to you. Where we're not encouraged to do that in regular social situations. Having an allocated space where it's like, hey, we specifically showed up here to grieve and to honor and to have reverence for, and yeah, also celebrate if that's on the table, I think there's nothing wrong with that either. So I actually don't have, like, whenever I do kick the bucket, which hopefully is far off time from now, well, I don't have any demands or decrees about like what the people who are left behind need to do at my funeral, like, or even if they have a funeral, like, you know what I mean? Like, I have no demands on the living. I'm not going to be a ghost, peer pressuring the people I love. I want people to get through however best helps them, right? If it is expressed to me over, the course of my life that people want to have something, something to hold on to, like hey, like, we need a way to do this. Like, sure, I will offer my 2 cents, but otherwise I have no, like, I look to have like some sort of, will or advance directive or something that says like, hey, when I do pass away, like, here's some things that need to just be taken care of, and I already have it figured out for you, so you don't have to. Like, that stuff I'm willing to do, and I still need to do. It's a shame I haven't done it already, but and we'll get into that some too. But I really do feel like, yeah, I don't, grieve how you gotta grieve. So I actually thought it was really interesting to have a take of like, I actually, wish we did have more of that in our society, of just like, hey, I'm wearing all black for a time because I'm grieving. I am not the same. I am not okay right now. And I just need a visual identifier for that kind of lets people know, and people can interact. People can at least be cognizant and interact however they're going to interact. But like, just, I think it's about holding space, and I think it's like about communicating without having to communicate, without having to necessarily reopen the wound or go through the whole story every time somebody, inquires or whatever, and that's gonna be, I can't even imagine how difficult that is to lose a child when, you're not supposed to outlive your child. But it happens every day. And so I appreciate Rob Delaney for speaking on this. He has a familiar face, actually, and don't know that I'm familiar with his work, but yeah, my empathy is definitely with him, no matter how long ago that was. Regina King on the loss of her son. Grief is a journey. I understand that grief is love that has no place to go. Very succinctly said. We touched on this earlier with Andrew Garfield and so forth. But yeah. I love, again, just embracing it. I love I feel calmer just reading that. Just the feeling that's washing over me is just really calm and soothing, because it's just like, hey, just holding space for the fact that, like, hey, it's a journey, and I know what this is. Yes, it hurts, but the hurt comes from a good place of having loved and still loving someone, and that's never wrong. You know what I mean? That's always beautiful. Shout out to you, Regina King. I love her as an actor. And honestly, one of my favorite things that she has done is voice Huey and Riley Freeman on the Boondocks. Just crushes both of those roles. Both, like, to play two characters that are so distinct and do it so well. Oh God, she's amazing. Stephen Colbert. Some people think that grief itself is contagious, so they don't want to hear it or even address it, when in fact, it's sort of paradoxical how addressing it doesn't make it darker. It actually opens the light. Ah, bruh. W quote. so accurate, so fucking true. Um, and we've already been talking about it. And this was on the loss of his father and his brothers, his father and his brothers. And it's just so true. Like people avoid it. Like I don't want to bring up a difficult thing. It's gonna be too painful. It's gonna be too uncomfortable. I don't want to hit a soft spot. And so often, so many of us, and it varies from person to person, but so many of us are just like, aching inside to have an opportunity to just like have someone to talk to about that, just have a chance to talk about it and not be looked at like you're an alien, just like to actually just be like, yeah, this is a real part of my life now. This is just, and I struggled with that for a long time of just like, how and when do I mention, you know, my grief loss because I'm talking about people. I don't know about y'all, but I have a tendency to talk about the things, passions, and people who I absolutely love. I love karate. I'm going to talk about karate. I love comic books. I'm going to talk about comic books. I love my friends and family members. I'm going to talk about my friends and family members. And that doesn't suddenly get, that file doesn't suddenly get deleted when somebody passes away. I still love talking about them. It makes me feel better to talk about them. And sometimes it just for the sake of, clarity or transparency, it just does come up that like, yeah, they're no longer with me. And like, I do it so regularly now. I'll be like talking, I think I was in a ride share just this last week. Like I think last Thursday, coming home from apheresis treatment, and I had a great conversation with that driver. We actually exchanged information. We might meet up and try to be pals. It's hard to like make real, genuine connections out here in this big ass city of Los Angeles, especially when Los Angeles is so hustle grind culture, so entertainment business centric. So every relationship is transactional. It's about networking and all that, and I don't love it. So it was cool to have this really, this dude took real interest in like, because he had to pick me up from the hospital, so he took me real interest in like. And I was wearing a mask, so he was just really fascinated with like, hey, like, what brings you here to the hospital? Like, what do you get done, and what like, and I love that he was bold. I love that he had the freedom and the boldness to ask. Some people are like, you shouldn't ask that. That's impolite, and that crosses a line. But like, he just said it in such a way that was just so genuinely like, kind of just interested. And I was like, oh, sure. And I explained. And so we had a great long talk on the, like, I think, hour or so ride it took to get fucking home in Los Angeles traffic at like, around 5, 6 p.m., whatever. And so I was just talking to him, and we were going over our lives and our stories, and like, I referenced my dad, and like, I just said he's no longer with me, and like, he's like, oh yeah, sorry to hear that. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, no, I appreciate that, thank you so much. And I just kept going with my story, not because I was trying to blow past it, but just because I'm just like, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, he's, my father being dead is just a part of my life. It's not like it's not this, sensitive, burdenous thing. Like I said, I still have an emotional reaction to it from time to time, and that crops up whenever it crops up. But that just happens on autoplay. That's on shuffle, right? Like those experiences just come up when they come up. It may have nothing to do with anything I'm doing or saying or talking about or thinking about in that moment. It just hits when it fucking wants to hit. So yeah, I talk very regularly about people who are no longer with us, even relationships that are that are no longer what they were. I still talk about people. I know a lot of people are aware that I used to I came from a co-run channel called Tactile TK, and I ran that with my chosen, my adopted kid brother, Miles. Shout out to Bestie Milo. And I still occasionally reference Miles. Just because we went our separate ways, and that was hard or whatever, it doesn't mean that like, oh, he's just fucking dead to me and blah blah blah. I was like, no, it's just like he was an important part of my life and remains an important part of my life, and he's still my brother, and I still love him, but we're estranged, and I don't see that necessarily changing anytime soon. But I do just feel like, yeah, it'd be weird to just suddenly never reference him, never talk about him again. And when I do, it's mostly just with like kind of a laugh and and some realness. Sometimes like, oh, it's so frustrating when he, we got on each other's nerves sometimes, but it's always with respect. Like I got no beef. And same thing with like romantic partners I've had. It's just like if they really meant something to me and there's anything worth holding on to there, like I've referenced them from time to time, or even by myself I think about them and just kind of smile about stuff, uh, and get those warm fuzzy feelings all over again. And I also remember why and how it didn't work out, and I honor that pain as well. But yeah, I love this quote. It's sort of paradoxical how addressing it doesn't make it darker. It actually opens the light. Kind of reminds me of that quote. I keep going back to Batman quotes. Hey, Batman deals with a lot of grief, okay? But Alfred in The Dark Knight Rises does a 180 from his position in like The Dark Knight. In The Dark Knight, he's very much like, he burns a letter that was from Rachel Dawes, basically, not bitching Bruce out, but basically telling him, like, hey, you know what? We're done. Like this is not, like you are not healthy, and I need to stay away from you. I'm not interested in, having any type of relationship with you, romantic or otherwise. Like, like I'm gonna be over here with Harvey Dent, right? And Alfred reads that and is just like, that's awful. And he was waiting for a good time to give it to him, and then obviously in The Dark Knight, what happens to Rachel, and so like Batman's grieving, and then like Alfred just sees him grieving, and he says like, Batman says like, oh, she was gonna wait for me, she was gonna wait for the day I could put away Batman so I could be with her, and the letter is absolutely the opposite of that, and Alfred's just like, that fucking sucks. Bruce deserves better for everything he sacrifices to help people in the city. He deserves better than this letter right now. But that was his position in The Dark Knight. But in The Dark Knight Rises, Alfred has this great moment, this great scene where he's arguing with Bruce a little bit before he leaves, and he's just like, they kind of win The Dark Knight off of a lie about Harvey Dent being this stalwart knight to the end, dies this martyr for the city. Not getting into his villainous activity, and that helps the city a little bit and decreases crime and whatever. But The Rises, we get 10 years later, we're catching up with the fallout of that, and it's just like Alfred says, maybe we should all stop trying to outsmart the truth and just let it have its day. I thought that was just a fucking banger line. Shout out to Jonathan Nolan and David S. Goyer and Christopher Nolan for that fucking banger. It's just like just fucking real as shit. But yeah, a lot of times the thing that we try to avoid because it's painful and difficult, or we perceive it will be painful and difficult, is actually the very thing we need to break through the other side, where the medicine is, right? Where the healing is, where the relief is. It's through the thing, not around the thing and over the thing and whatever. And again, I'm not a life coach. I'm not a mental health expert. I'm not here to tell you how to do anything. If you're treading water and you're getting by like, I just can't unpack this right now, that's a completely valid way to navigate life for a time as well. You do what you need to do. But I just feel like, like through the difficulty, which is why it's brilliant that it comes from Michael Caine's Alfred, because Michael Caine is famous for giving life advice and acting advice of use the difficulty, and I think that's such a great way to, I don't know if that was on purpose or serendipitous, but like it gets to come through Alfred, and it's just like, just let it have its day, man. Like, just like, I think, one of my other favorite philosophical quotes was utilized in Kung Fu Panda. I doubt Kung Fu Panda was like the source of this, but like they throw in a lot of Taoism and Buddhist kind of philosophy, but the sort of I don't remember the characters' names, but the sort of wise like mentor, the turtle character, I think, said one often meets his destiny on the path he takes to avoid it. Just another fucking banger line. I was just like, that's crazy. That's so good, fucking good, and so fucking true. And I'm not saying you have to believe in predetermination. I'm not sure that I do, but I will say that, like, destiny as in the thing you're gonna have to face, right? And so we try to avoid the thing, and that like leads us right into the thing. And it's just such an interesting thing. But yeah, shout out to Stephen Colbert for sharing this. And here's our last one. This is Jonas. She says, after my dad passed, I came to a show, but after my dad passed, I came to a slow but steady conclusion that that kind of pain will never go away. Yeah, that kind of echoes again some things we talked about earlier. It's not so much about the grief loss disappearing off the face of the earth and changing forever. It's just more about like, it's how my life philosophy in general. It's like, as far as dealing with difficult things, as far as dealing with difficult things, I really feel like it's not so much that it gets better or that time makes it easier. It's just, it doesn't get better, but you get better, right? You get better at managing it, dealing with it, living with it, accepting it, embracing it, fighting with it, being angry at it, being sad about it. You get better at the aspects of all of it. And I think that that's such a relief, such a cool thing. To know that that's possible. It's an optimism. The tricky thing about optimism, a lot of people shout optimism down because it's supposed to be like, it's unrealistic and it's bullshit, and life is hard and unfair and dark and blah blah blah. Just deal with the fact that it's always going to be tough. It's like, optimism isn't about avoiding difficulty or avoiding the ugly truths of the world. It's about staring them dead in the face and being like, yeah, I see that that's there, but I also see the opportunities and the potential both within it and beyond it, right? There's more happening in life than just the awful. It doesn't mean we should downplay or ignore the awful. That's what's called toxic positivity. But what we should do, or not what we should do, but we can do, what we have an opportunity to do, is to acknowledge that through all that brutal pain and suffering that we sometimes endure, there's also still remarkable beauty and lots of opportunities to do something positive, do something human and connective with our lived experience. And I think that's such a cool thing. But yeah, I think we kind of touched on some of the points I wanted to hit too. Like I said, again, this is all about grief. It's not always, grief is a lot of things. It's not just someone who's passed away. We grieve, again, loss of relationships. We grieve loss of job opportunities. We grieve loss of, physical ability or health. We grieve the loss of our youth. We grieve the contamination of our future. We grieve injuries. We grieve regretful things that we said that we can't take back and that we have another chance to talk to somebody and fix it and work it out. Like, we grieve missed opportunities. We grieve a lot of different things. There's so much grief in regular everyday living. And I don't mean that as in every day is an absolute nightmare and whatever. I mean, it can be that way, but what I actually mean is that there's so much grief and processing of grief and working through it. And sometimes it's like this, you get a handle on it real quick, you reframe and you keep it pushing. Other times you need a minute, that kind of fucking hurt, and it still fucking hurts. And whatever it looks like on you, I just want you to know that there's no one way to grieve. We mentioned the stages of grief earlier very briefly. And the important thing to remember about the stages of grief as well is that oftentimes you will experience them in some randomized order, and sometimes you will not experience all of them. Sometimes some of them will be omitted from your grieving experience, right? So the stages of grief is a great teaching tool for mental health and just understanding that these are patterns that human beings exhibit often when they're trying to process loss. However, it's even when I was a kid in health class, right? Even when I was in middle school, they really started to throw in there that these are the stages of grief, and typically, this is what it looks like, and they had them in a very specific order. Bargaining. Denial is usually first, and then anger, and then sadness, and then bargaining, and then acceptance. Right? That's the more common trajectory for it, but also important to note, may happen in a completely different order, and you may just not deal with some of those stages you may never get angry about it, or you may never necessarily bargain or be in denial, or I mean, I don't know. It's possible that you may not get sad when you think you're supposed to be sad. You know what I mean? That's kind of what Liam Neeson was talking about in his quote. Like, just you think you're gonna cry and get it over with, but it hits when it hits, if it hits at all. And then sometimes I've heard people feel guilty about the fact that it didn't hit. That it's just like, I don't have any tears about this. Like, what does that say about me? And the truth is, it doesn't say anything. It just really, you really just have to take it as it comes and appreciate life for what it is. All we have, truly, as autonomous human beings, is the ability to choose, and the ability to choose, and that includes choosing how we're going to interact with life, how we're going to move, how we're going to treat people, how we're going to treat ourselves. Like, these are, we have the power of choice, and through cognizant, evolution crafted, thought, higher functioning thought. We get to choose. That includes choosing how we look at things, which is a whole process that is a whole other talk. Because intellectual understanding and emotional harmony and understanding are completely separate entities that don't always connect in the middle. So you can get intellectually that something's that you need to move forward or whatever, and you might feel like you're buried underneath 20 pounds of concrete, right? But yeah, those are a lot of the points I really wanted to hit. We don't talk about grief loss. What does healing look like? We kind of talked about that. Like, sometimes it's just like yes, healing is a journey and a process, and some people have attested to like getting 100% better and being good, and that's their experience and their story to tell. For me and a lot of other people, it's like, no, I've healed, but it's still an injury. It's still changed the way I move and the way I feel. And again, shout out to the buddy Cosmonaut. It's like learning to walk with a limp. There are different kinds of grief. We covered that. It comes in a lot various different flavors. There's fun for everyone. Skittles taste the rainbow. So don't let somebody. This is an important point that I didn't hit. Don't let somebody minimize your grief because it's about something that somebody thinks is trivial or small or whatever it is. Like, your experience is your experience. You know what your experience means to you. And there may be deeper layers to it that maybe you haven't even uncovered yet. But like, somebody being, bummed about like about a 3-month relationship that comes to an end, like, you don't know what that means to that person. So you don't get to tell them like, oh my God, dude, that was 2 years ago. Can you fucking move on already? Like, you can do that, but in my opinion, you're a complete asshole. It's okay to encourage not letting, grief define a person, and, supporting them and letting them know, like, hey, you could still, your life is still about other things, and you still have other things to offer, and you can still do things with your life even through the grief. That's cool. But like, telling somebody that they're out of line for grieving something because you believe in your timetable that they should be done with it by now, that's some bullshit. That's a real asshole thing to do. I'm just calling it what it is. So yeah, crying over spilt milk really depends on what the milk meant to you and how much you needed that milk. So I will leave that there. As far as this, if anyone has anything they want to share, if anyone's actually even here, feel free to chime in, as far as like any perspective on any of this. But if not, that's okay. Right now, we're going to move into the next segment, the ending segment. We are going to move into. I swear, I feel like Uzi's like only here for the watch streak. Didn't want to break the streak. Let's see what we got from Uzi real quick before I do the next thing. Knowing you Friday, you'll be in Act 4 of Canto 9 of Dante's Inferno by the end of 2 hours. That's fair. I love all of your little emotes. Those are so fun. I was close. You're in Act 3 of Canto 5. This was the stuff I was seeing out the side of my eye while I was trying to like stay in my thoughts. Dante's Inferno is how I track time in here mentally. That's fine. That's interesting actually. Very fascinating. Now he's preachy. Sounded like a religious pitch for a second. Preachy. If you can elaborate, I would love to know which part of that. I took a strong stance on like not telling somebody, you know, whether or not they've had enough time to grieve and heal. That's not even like a TED talk. That's just like me being like, that's just a real life perspective I have. Like, don't tell somebody else like when they're supposed to be over something. How could you possibly fucking know? How could you possibly fucking know? Like, I just think that's everybody has their own pet peeves and their own like kind of boundaries of what they think is rude or whatever. And that's something that I think is extremely insensitive and fucking cruel. And I'm if you've done that to somebody, if you said that to somebody, look, I get it. We're all human beings. I've said some pretty, in my opinion, awful shit to people. Sometimes I feel like it was warranted, and other times I'm like, I definitely did not need to say that, and that was messed up. So, do you? But I was just, this is my talk through it Tuesday. I get to say what I need to say, and I needed to say like, public service announcement. Just stop telling people they're on the clock with fucking grief. That's crazy. But yeah, Uzi, if you want to call out what's preachy, I actually probably can look at the timestamp for that and try and reverse engineer what I was talking about at that time. But yeah, that's such an interesting observation. That was 8:07. It's 8:13. So yeah, that's probably somewhere in the tail end. So I don't know. If you want to clarify, Uzi, go for it. If you don't have it offend you to do so, that's also fine. I'll leave it there. In the meantime, what do I have? I have an activity. All right, we have an activity. So what we're gonna do? Let's see. Holy shit. I had it in my notes. Hold on. Oh yeah, I didn't choose. I had a couple of ideas. Since I doubt there's anyone here to really vote on this, I'm just gonna pick one. We will do. All right, where is it? Where happened to OBS? Not me fucking up OBS. All right, here we go. All right, so we're going to. I'm probably gonna need my actual PS5 for this. See, we can remove this. I'll leave the tag up. The content label. I was like, I can remove the content label because we're kind of done with that section, but all right, cool. Also, heads up in the meantime, I am still working on getting this particular type of talk and forum up like earlier in the day. I honestly expect people like at the end of their day to just be like, I'm trying to turn my brain off now, which I totally get. But that's okay because it's a VOD. It'll exist somewhere for those who want to find it. If it's any help to anybody. But I would like to get these kind of earlier in the day. But right now, as all of you, or I shouldn't say all of you, as most of you know, um, my streams are when the availability exists. So despite my deepest efforts to maintain a schedule, at this point, at this particular juncture with everything I'm dealing with in life, it is very much wherever I fit them in. The days have stayed the same. So we're still looking at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, but the times, who knows? All right, so all right, let's shift the lighting as well. Ah, where is it? There is it. Ah, um, somebody I've been thinking a lot about recently. My acting mentor, he reached out to me. I need to, yeah, it's late now, but I'll definitely hit him back up. All right, what do we got here? Let's go with. Mm, let's see. Actually, not. That's actually not bad. Not bad. I need something a little different over on this side. That feels a little. I don't know. Oh, wow, I haven't thought about this joint in a minute. I love this song though. Ooh, that's kind of fun. We'll do that. Oh, well. If I pick the right setting, holy shit. All right, just make sure I have the right thing. Okay, so all right. Probably. I don't hate that nor that. We're just gonna do that. Sick. All right, where we get to. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where did I put the controls for? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. That's what I wanted. Put that away. There we go. Why don't we try? Oh, I never like confirmed this either. Interesting. What if I took this down some? Hells yeah. And then what if maybe that's probably good enough? Nope. All right. All right. Different vibes. Why don't we go for is this the oh yeah, no wonder. No fucking wonder. Where's the saw it earlier. I have so many fucking I have so many fucking playlists. I don't know where shit is sometimes. That wasn't it. That wasn't it. Yeah, I'll just search it. All right, cool. Music can come back up some too. All right, here we go. Why don't we go into Marvel Rivals once more? It's just like the easiest thing for me to do right now. And instead of playing a session, last time um, we did Smash or Pass. This time we were going to we're going to do Mary Fuck Kill. I'll start picking different like material, but Rivals is just like right here in front of me. Where are we at? All right, let's get this on screen. All right, y'all. All right, so we went through all these motherfuckers last time, and we were like, smash or pass. Who would I be willing to sleep with, and who would I not? And so this time we're just gonna do a particular a Mary Fuck Kill list. We haven't done Mary Fuck Kill on this channel in a minute, but in order to do it, I am going to definitely I'm going to definitely make sure that I break this down by role, because I mean, going through the whole thing, I feel like you don't get a lot of value out of that. So I'll go by role. So there are three roles in Marvel Rivals for those who know. There is, there are duelists who are DPS. There are strategists who are labeled as healers, but they do a lot more than healers. But they're the healers and they're the support mains, right? And then you've got Vanguard, which are the tanks. So we're gonna go through and do like a Mary Fuck Kill there. And then ooh, no. Hey, what's up, Professor? What's up, Professor? Welcome in. Hey, everyone. How are you guys doing? I'm doing well. All right, there we go. Redo that one. I underestimated how hot it is underneath all these fucking lights. I did not turn the AC up enough. Times are crazy these days. Yeah, that is forever the truth. Um, by the way, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Uh, just doing another talk through Tuesday, having a little open chat. That ended up being more of a dissertation because because that's fine. Things were quiet in chat, and that's okay. I don't expect everyone to really want to necessarily engage in these types of topics, but I do, or be available at this hour as well, depending on what coast you're on. Um, they might be sending the National Guard to Chicago. Rinse, slather, repeat. Huh? If it worked the first time, why not have a sequel? Jesus, Jesus. All right. Well, is what it is. Is what it is. All right. Now, we are on to um. I can already see how in the future I'll do this one. I'll do this type of thing differently. I'll probably do my sign off before I go into the just for fun bit for the rest of the stream, so I can rebrand the stream. But we're already here, so we're just gonna go ahead and do this one. All right. So Mary fuck kill, Marvel Rivals. Feel free to chime in with your own choices. Let's go. Again, oops. I want to go to. All right, so we're gonna start this. We're gonna go by class. We're gonna start with Vanguard. What? How many Vanguards are there now? What? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10? Okay. I think I counted that correctly. Um. Okay. Mary fuck kill. I got to choose in this category. Hmm. Well. This is a toss-up because on one hand, I feel like the obvious choice to marry would be Cap, right? Like, would treat you well, respects you as a person, still strong and in great shape and like powerful, and kind. On the other hand, while Emma would normally be like a very easy like to throw in like the fuck category, it's just like but what about encore? Like, because fuck him just implies. I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on how you play Mary fuck kill, because I feel like fuck can imply like a one night stand, or it can imply maybe ongoing sexual relationship. I don't know how people typically read it. I always read it as like one night stand. You're gonna get to have them the once and that's it. So if we're playing by those rules, and it's my channel, so we might as well. I'ma say, see, like, but then like she's not out of the running for marriage because like then you get the ongoing performance, right? Also, she's just like loaded, and then you're just like you just don't have to worry about having to figure things out financially. But I'm not that type of person, really. That's the big draw. Yeah, this group is pretty straightforward. I'm gonna say. Yeah, I'm gonna say marry Emma Frost, which is really a terrible idea. But like at the same time, like I need the encore. I need I need the encore. I don't want to just be a tourist. I need the encore. I will fuck Captain America. And we will kill. This is hard because like nobody here I feel like deserves to die like that. But we will kill. I can't do it. We'll kill Magneto. Why not? Magneto's dope, but at the same time, sometimes is willing to unleash nuclear warheads on the public or something, crazy like that. So like, yeah, maybe we're a bit off our All right, we're gonna go to where is it? Oh yeah, here. My glasses. All right, Duelist. Duelist has the largest fucking roster. Of the Duelist, there's so much to choose from here, and a lot of sexiness going on in the Duelist list. So I'm gonna say we are going to. We're gonna marry Peter Parker. We're gonna marry Spider-Man. We are going to. I just want to think about this real carefully. Yeah, we're gonna marry Spider-Man. We're going to. We're going to. We're gonna fuck Black Widow. And then we're going to kill. Oh, good God! Some of y'all deserve to get it. Just from the frustration you give me in this game, but also, we're going to. Oh man, I can't believe I like passed up Blade and T'Challa. I'm gonna have to rethink that answer. Hold on now. God. We are going to actually. No, I'm still gonna have the most fun marrying Peter Parker. I just feel like we're gonna get along, talk about nerd shit all day. We enjoy simple things. We don't have to like spend a lot of money, and just the ride you get to go on, web swinging. Whenever you do that as a couple, like that'd be so clutch. So I'm gonna say that'd be so much fun and so relaxing. So yeah, it just seems real stable until everything falls apart in his life as it often does in the comics, and then he snaps. But otherwise he's great. We're gonna say. I changed my mind. We're gonna fuck T'Challa. We're gonna fuck Black Panther. We're going to kill. I'm trying really hard not to let my gameplay bias determine who we off here. I mean, we're gonna kill Hela. I mean, as much as it was just funny because she's the goddess of death. I don't even know if you can kill Hela, but we're gonna kill Hela. She is fine as fuck, but at the same time, like she's a whole problem and does not give a shit whether I live or die or anyone else does. So we're just gonna get her out of there. It was tempting to go Wanda because she's a legitimate threat to humanity as well, and just living creatures. But at the same time, she's done some good, I believe, people can reform and be given a chance, but she is mad dangerous. All right. And that is those two classes. I didn't mean to exit out, and we're going to go for our strategist. All right, strategist. I actually forgot about this whole feature where you can just choose based on class. I forget that's there sometimes. What do we got? We are going to most likely. We are going to interesting. This is an interesting eclectic mix. Oh my God, can marry Cloak and Dagger and be a permanent throuple. That'd be fucking wild. People do it all the time, I'm like, I don't know. Is that where we want to go with this today? Sue Storm seems like a solid pick, but the fact that she sometimes is written in the comics to like actually have a back and forth thing with like Doctor Doom and fucking Namor. Most of the time, the thing with Namor is like very like one-sided, but sometimes they write her so that like, hey, she is kind of interested. I don't know about that. Like if you're in a poly situation, that's one thing. But if you're supposed to be doing the monogamy thing, like what are we doing here? Yeah, you know what? Fuck it, variety. We're gonna marry Cloak and Dagger, and then we are going to fuck Luna Snow, and she's got good control of her powers. So I don't think having a full blown sickle cell pain crisis because she's too cold is gonna happen. So I think we're okay. And then we will kill. I mean, Ultron. This is such an easy kill. Like, dude wants smoke with all of humanity at all times. Once it's all dead, like he's a hilarious character, a very fascinating and compelling character to watch do his thing. But yeah, definitely not someone to keep around. So there you go. There you have it. This was very, very easy, very straightforward this time. Much easier than the Smash or Pass. But yeah, I think that's gonna wrap it up for us now, guys. This was I think a really important topic to me. I don't know if anyone's gonna get anything out of it, but that's not why I do these necessarily, to just like pander to what everybody wants. I do these because I want to create a space where people can talk about some real shit for a while. I usually come in with a topic because if I just say, hey, let's just talk about life and stuff, people tend to get real quiet. So I was just like, I tend to come in with a topic, and then try to leave it open for the conversation to go wherever. But at the same time, if there are no takers, it's fine. Then this just ends up being a weird think piece on the internet among many. And I think it's good for me. I think I'll get better at it as I go, and hopefully it'll be a more of a conversation as we go. But if not, this is part of streaming. Sometimes you just talk into the void. If you would like to catch me again. No, I'm not gonna do it. If you'd like to catch me again, you can catch me on Wednesdays and Fridays as well. We did not do Monday this week because of the holiday. It was fucking Labor Day, so I decided, fuck it, I'm not gonna be on. You know what I mean? Like I'm just relaxed to do my own thing. But yeah, we're going to do another stream tomorrow. Tomorrow's Warm Hug Wednesday. Kind of the other end of it, right? Like kind of like, Talk Through Tuesday can be any real life topics we want to talk about. No holds barred. And then Wednesday, Warm Hug Wednesday is just about, just like hopefully comforting each other, feeling good, having a nice chill, safe space to just like, to vibe and have some, something to look forward to, something to lift each other up. So I'll be working on that, but tomorrow, ideally, I'll be on at some point to do that with y'all. So I appreciate you being here. Shout out to everybody. I guess I can take us on out. My voice is still not too messed up to hit that note right now. Where is this? I think we're going to go out on close. Hold on. Let me give Uzi some shit. All right, there we go. In any case, I don't think this is. I could go on this, but we're gonna go out with one of my other tunes. That sounds real smooth. Yeah, we're gonna do this. All right. In any case, thank you so much. Shout out to Uzi and Gaming Professor for kicking it with me. I really appreciate you. And also, what do I got? I feel like I'm overdue to explain this really cool event I got to go to. So I'm gonna make sure I get on that. That might be tomorrow. It might be Friday. We'll see. In any case, in the meantime, in the interim, thank you so much for checking out this video. If you're checking it out after the fact, this is not the usual type of thing that is done here, but it's just the type of thing that I want to make space for. If no one else wants to be able to, you know, if no one else wants to talk about these types of things, then maybe those who do will find their way here and feel less alone. And that's really the ultimate goal of these. I got nothing for you. I got no plans. I'm gonna hop off stream and grind in Marvel Rivals for a bit. Until then, until next time, my friends, I just want to say thank you so much for building this community with me and doing this thing that we do. It's just like, it's really a pleasure. It's really a joy. As always, I will leave you with the things I always leave you with, which includes, hey, take care of yourself, okay? Be kind to yourself, you know, give yourself some credit, and you know that you are worthy. You are a worthwhile person doing the best you can. Maybe be on your own side, you know? But yeah, drink your water. Nourish yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually so you can be the healthiest version of you. Surround yourself with people who refill your meter, not take away from it. And always build things into your schedule worth looking forward to, because you'll be surprised how much that makes a difference. Y'all have been really, really patient and kind and thoughtful. And I've been Phil's special meter. We'll catch you next time, friends.